Hi, Pat the Podcast Editor here. What on earth is a marketing communications guide? Well, today, Dan and Lloyd are talking brand guidelines and what outlining your brand identity on paper can do for you and your team.
This whole thing is super important for new team members because how on earth are they to know how to communicate to the outside world?
And it's going to save you time from saying this over and over again to different people.
Now, when it comes to social media content, consistency is key, especially when it's the image your company is projecting to the outside world. So having these guidelines in place will ensure that every piece of content you create fits perfectly within the bigger picture.
Describe in adjectives what your company's personality is not.
Well, we're certainly not rude, dismissive, boastful, or unethical, are we?
What are we, Lloyd?
I would say we're fun, intelligent, ethical, and creative.
Good reading.
Personally.
So what could developing a marketing communications guide do for you? Stay tuned to find out. Right, let's get stuck in. This is episode 87 of the Business Anchors podcast.
We're just a couple of business anchors. Welcome to the Business Anchors podcast. This jingle is slightly too long. This jingle is slightly too long.
What on earth is a marketing communications guide, Dan? And why is it worth us listening to this episode?
Well, that's a good question, Lloyd. A marketing communications guide, I think different people describe it in different ways, but for us, it's an instruction manual for everyone that works for our company to know how to communicate with the outside world and internally with anyone and everyone so that we're all consistently communicating in the same way and getting the same messages across to the world.
Cool, that was very good. I enjoyed that.
Does that make sense, though? It's like,
yeah,
it's a guide to show how we should be speaking, what kind of perception we want people to think about us, what things we want to communicate.
Which I think the massive positive is the long-term effect. That consistent messaging to the world over time, I guess, is puts you where you want to be over time.
Yeah, and I guess a quick backstory as to why we're doing this. So if you don't know already, every month we have like a management meeting where we review our performance. And a couple of months ago, I had a bit of a bad month, and you were kind of giving me a kick up the arse to improve with our marketing, which is a good thing you do to help us improve.
Yeah, it happens the other way around sometimes.
Yeah, it happens the other way around.
Yeah.
And one of the things is like we're not consistently communicating. The whole marketing and everyone involved was quite disjointed. I was doing certain things, other people in the team were doing other things, and it was purely down to me not creating some kind of guidance to help the team to ensure we're all aligned on the way we communicate. So from that meeting, I then scheduled time to create this communications guide, which is an instructions manual for our team, like I mentioned. And I've actually got that communications guide to hand.
Ooh.
And I thought, as always with Business Anchors, we want to help you, the listeners, to improve your marketing and your business. And this has been a huge benefit to us. And I thought, why not share the process we went through to develop this and give some examples of how we're doing it so that you can create your own communications guide.
I think it's so useful. Once you go into the detail, you realise with this, there are so many different ways that you communicate with the outside world that have an effect on what people think of your business. And especially as we've been growing and new people have been starting and stuff, like Dan said, we have a number of people communicating with the outside world, whether it's intentionally, as in, I'm posting something on social media, or whether it's kind of the more passive thing of like, I'm on a video shoot with a client and I'm chatting to them.
Yeah.
To have those consistent messages of like, this is who we are, this is what we do, this is how we help people, really important. Like I'm just thinking, no, it's not about how we look. I'm wondering if my rubbish beard communicates anything negative.
No, but...
Oh, that makes it sound like it does.
No, it's not. It's not that kind. Like,
okay.
We don't want to become, so intrusive to our team that you have to wear a certain. We're very much like come to work with what makes you comfortable.
Yeah.
It's more the way you're communicating and speaking and engaging with the outside world.
Do you know what annoyed me about? Sorry, just a quick tangent. Yesterday we played squash together.
Yeah.
Walking out, and someone we know goes, "What is it? Beardvember?" And it annoyed me because I thought, if anything, it's Barch, or depending when this goes out, it's April. I mean, if you're late to this episode, potentially Boon or Belay, not Bidvember.
I know. I could tell what they're doing though because of Movember. You know the thing where you grow a tash for charity.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah.
April, mate. Anyway, sorry. Continue.
So, what I want to do is break down the different kind of sections to this guide and give some insight into, and read some of it to give you an insight into what our guide looks like. So, a few different parts. The first part I developed was the guide purpose, because whoever's reading this guide needs to understand how it's used and what it's used for.
Could be a new, well, when you're first introducing this, or a new employee.
I was going to say, I think this whole thing is super important for new team members, because how on earth are they to know how to communicate to the outside world if they've never been shown how to, or
and it's going to save you time from saying this over and over again to different people.
Yeah. So, just to give you an insight into what R says, the purpose of this document is to function as a guide for every way Knowlton communicates to the outside world. This could be content, videos, copy for posts, images, podcasts, or anything we produce that is seen by the public. It could be client communication, basically the way we speak to clients, in person or over Zoom, etc. Or it could be any other communication to the outside world. For example, speaking to people you meet at an event, or speaking to actors, or speaking to people who own locations we're trying to hire, like anything. And again, we're talking from a marketing video production company site. But if you're an accountant, or if you're a cleaner, or any type of company,
speaking to customers, speaking to your suppliers, posting on social media, it could be anyone you deal with as a business. Which usually there's loads of people you're dealing with.
And then, so that's a bit of the kind of guide purpose. Then the actual meat of the guide is broken down into 3 parts. So we've got. What?
He's weird how he said meat.
Well, that's
meat.
The meat of this.
Yeah.
Knowlton content checklist, and I'll explain what those in a second. Knowlton brand guide and Knowlton brand checklist.
Oh, interesting.
So our content checklist is basically, and I'll go through the points in a second, it's a checklist for every piece of content we produce needs to be hitting these points to ensure it's at the standard that we want it to be. Mm-hmm. And I'll go through those. And
this is great, like we said, for the team, because really running a business, you want your team to have all the tools that they need to do the best job they can. And most of the time they want that too. It's quite hard if you just go, do this and make it good, but they don't have guidance or the tools they need.
Yeah, I'm definitely the kind of person that works better when I've got more guidance to ensure that I'm doing the thing. So, so and then the second part is the Knowlton brand guide. You'll see when we get into this, but really it's a case of like, what is our personality? What's our vision? What are we focusing on that we want to get across, so that people get a real feel for the type of company we are? How corporate are we? Are we super corporate, or are we really laid back and chilled? Like, what vibe are we going for? And this has implications on the language we use when we're speaking, or the language we use when we're creating content, and that kind of thing.
We worked backwards with this, didn't we? So started at basically, what do we want the world to think about Knowlton?
Yeah.
If you think ideally, like our clients, potential customers, followers online, when we say like, oh, who are Knowlton? How do you want to be described? How do you want your business to be described, and work backwards from that?
On that note, a really important point is it has to be true to you. Like, you can't just say, we want to be perceived as this thing that completely isn't what you are. So it needs to be super aligned. We started by having this session where we were like, what are we and what do we want to be? To kind of start.
I think that's important. What do we want to be? Because there may be things that you aspire to. If you have a meeting about this, you might be saying, we want people to think we're fun. If you're not fun at the moment, I think first, take the actions to try and be fun. I think just saying it and then communicating it to the world, you might get some short-term benefits, but people will see through it. So it's fine to say that's what we want to be, but take the actions before you shout about it too much.
I believe we are actually fun. So we unintentionally do that through the content we create and the behind-the-scenes videos we make of our shoots and our TikToks to show the kind of culture here.
Yeah. Oh, we have a laugh, don't we?
Yeah. So I think, But I guess if you're not fun, then try and do stuff.
I think it's quite harsh to think of yourself as not fun, isn't it?
No,
More thinking as a business in general. And no, there's loads of businesses that you wouldn't describe as fun. You know, there's businesses that have to not be fun, and there are other focuses. So it's okay if you're thinking my business isn't fun.
I mean, is that okay though? I'd hate to work for a not fun company.
Well, we would, but
I suppose.
we're a very small part of the business landscape.
Yeah. Okay. So then the third part is the Knowlton brand checklist. Now, this is something that you really had an input with to make sure we're doing this, and this is basically the key things Knowlton we want to be known for. The key, when people are watching our videos, reading the copy of our posts, what messages do we want to get across to the outside world?
And that comes from our business goals. So I know Daniel will go into detail and things, but we've got goals of becoming the most creative agency in the UK. So we've got things in place of how we can maximize creativity coming out of our business, and therefore that's something we want to communicate. So I think try and relate it back to what you're trying to achieve, rather than just going, oh, do you know what? I want my business to seem fun. It's like, is that related to your business goals?
Yeah.
For us, it is. We're trying to maximize how much Dan and I and our team enjoy coming to work, and that being a massive part of it. So fun has to be part of that to make it worthwhile. But if that's not one of your goals, don't feel like you have to say that's one of the things. I think relate it to what's important to you in your business.
Yeah, definitely. So to go into the real nitty gritty from each of these three sections now. So the first one, the Knowlton content checklist. We actually did an episode, a deep dive into this recently. Can't remember the episode, but it was. I usually remember the episodes. It was one of the recent ones before this, about creating good content. So there's the checklist. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 things that we want our content to be hitting every time. So first,
we remember this with the acronym, don't we? Always remember Rion Vatic.
So we did try to come up with an acronym, but it didn't work. There wasn't enough vowels in this. So yeah, that's the acronym. Say it again, Lloyd.
Rion Vatic.
Yeah. So the R part of Rion Vatic. Relatable. Is this piece of content relatable to the target market? Will they be nodding along when they're consuming this piece of content? Super, super important. The next one, emotion triggering. Does it trigger some kind of emotion? Does it make the viewer feel something? Does it make them... you took the piss at me last time we said this because I said, does it make them feel entertainment?
Yeah,
as an emotion?
That is not an emotion.
Does it make them laugh, cry, go, go, ooh?
And with this, I think you don't need to be thinking like, hang on, this picture I'm posting on Instagram isn't going to make people cry, so I'm not going to post it.
No.
It can be it doesn't have, every piece of content doesn't have to be a really strong emotion of like crying or laughing with absolute joy.
I like to think like, what noise will this make someone, will this piece of content make someone make? We don't want to be making that noise. No, that's more OnlyFans.
Okay.
So the next one, on brand, is it in line with what is outlined in your brand communications guide? Is it on brand for you? Is it getting the right kind of vibe across? If you're super corporate, you don't want to be using acronyms and like cool words like lol. And
I was going to say, I'm looking forward to the cool word lol.
No, but you know what I mean? You like we like to come across as very non-corporate, and because we are, and we talk in the way that you speak, whereas lawyers might want to be very formal and talk correctly.
Yeah, in a deep voice for no reason.
Exactly. The next one, native. Basically, is it built for the platform that it's being distributed on? Really understanding each of the different platforms is super important when you're creating a piece of content. Like, for example, you wouldn't put a highly produced TV ad on TikTok because it's not going to work, because much lower production value content that taps into trends works better on TikTok.
And some of those things could have a negative impact on what people think of you.
Yeah.
So if the content you're putting out looks like you haven't put the effort in, or you don't know what you're doing, that could probably more from a marketing perspective like ours, but actually for most businesses.
Like you could genuinely put a £1 million TV ad on TikTok and it would perform worse than a video that one of your team has shot with your phone that's tapping into a trend that sounds going viral at the time. The next one, value adding. Is it adding any kind of value? This is a really crucial one. Looking at the piece of content or the copy you're writing and asking yourself, what is someone actually getting from this? I think, again, us as an agency, we've improved this a lot recently because before we would say, you know, even with copy, we'd sort of say, oh, here's a thing we did. Look at it. Oh, yeah. Whereas now we're like, here's a thing we did. Here's an insight into how we did that thing that you can learn from. We learned this thing. Step 1, step 2, step 3. Or
it's thinking about the other side of the content, the people looking at it, watching it, listening to it, rather than because we want to, because we're excited by the work we do and our team, we want to just go, look at this thing we're doing.
Yeah.
Because to us it's exciting, and it might be to some people, but like you're saying, you need to think of the person on the other end of that. Does that excite them or entertain them, or do we need a different angle to make sure it's value adding?
I think that's why empathy is so important with marketing, is putting yourself in someone else's shoes and
Because
understanding.
in our team, we're just going, oh, this is so exciting working on this project. If someone outside of it doesn't feel that, then
They're probably not that excited.
probably not. No.
The next one, thumb stopping. So obviously people on social are constantly scrolling. What about that piece of content is making them stop scrolling to look at it? Like a video, the first 3 seconds are really key. We focus on creating hooks in our videos. So something that's really visually engaging, or something that's really communicating something key that they're going to learn from consuming that piece of content.
Intriguing.
Intriguing.
Starting the
enticing.
video, I'm going to talk about something that saved me £1 million and made me grow a foot in height.
I want to watch that video.
Yeah. Believe me, so do I.
And the final one, call to action inducing. You basically need to tell people what to do at the end of that piece of content because people need reminding. So if it's to let us know what you think in the comments below, or if it's subscribe, or if it's go and listen to the Business Anchors podcast, or leave us a review, or
Which you should.
Yeah.
Oh, Dan, when we asked for that, though, did we do all those things? We need to think of before we go to the call to action.
Yes, okay. We'll think of Rion.
Okay.
So yeah, just remember, let's say it together, Lloyd.
Rion. I mean, our team just never forget it because it's so memorable.
Just constantly. Yep, Rion. Cool. So that's the Knowlton content checklist. The next one is the Knowlton brand guide. Now, this is a lot more lengthy, so I'm not going to bore you all by going through this whole thing.
Oh, thank God. We had tax last week.
Excuse me, last episode,
sorry.
you were talking about tax and it was incredibly boring.
That's what I mean. We can't do it 2 weeks in a row, can we?
But just to give you an idea, so the kinds of headlines we're going for in the brand guide are core values, Knowlton's core values, our core focus for the business, our 10-year target, our brand voice. So just to give you an idea of, I think it'd be good to share our values. What do Knowlton really care about? Lloyd, why don't you share some of our 5 core
I've worked
values?
hard on these. So, do what you say. Okay. Number 2,
simple, but
strive to be the best. Number 3, do the right thing. Number 4, find improvements in everything. And number 5, have fun and stay weird.
I like your reading voice.
Thank you.
But some more interesting things in the kind of brand voice side of things. There's questions that you can answer. I'll just read out these questions so you can create your own version of this. So, if your company was a person, what kind of personality would it have?
Probably exactly mine.
Yeah,
that's what everyone aims for, right?
How does your company make you feel, and how do you want it to make other people feel? If your company was a person, what's their relationship to the consumer? What other brand voices do you admire? Describe in adjectives what your company's personality is. These are all questions that you can answer to really get a vibe.
If you're thinking as well, like I'm just imagining, right, a new employee starting their first week within your business, and they're looking at this, and I think it gives them such a good guide to doing the best that they can do. Like the question, like what other brand voices do Knowlton admire, or do your business admire, and some options there. A new employee can look at that company's communications and think, okay, so this is the sort of thing we're aspiring to be. Such a good way of doing things and showing them what they need to do.
Can I read what our personality is, and the anchors can decide if we're getting that vibe across?
Okay, yeah.
Are
yeah.
you concerned?
Please tell us, anchors.
So this is how we describe our personality. Knowlton would be the funny guy or gal who uses their intellect to be witty in exactly the right way in all situations. Knowlton doesn't tell childish jokes.
Oh.
Knowlton subtly communicates credibility through relevant, witty humour.
Oh, I like it.
Are we?
I think I might need to cut down the childish jokes in this podcast. That's one thing.
Yeah.
I mean,
We're not quite hitting
and this
that.
isn't just for new employees. I'm learning. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I really like that. Obviously, I've read this before, but it's nice to be reminded.
Cool. Just to flip the page, final page, the final few questions in this guide that you need to answer. Describe in adjectives what your company's personality is.
Mm.
Describe in adjectives what your company's personality is not.
Well, we're certainly not rude, dismissive, boastful, or unethical, are we?
What are we, Lloyd?
I would say we're fun, intelligent, ethical, and creative.
Good reading.
Personally, I think that's good as well. Having like 3 or 4 of that, rather than do this massive list, that really gives you a good idea of who we are and who we're not.
Yeah.
Like the whole, like just saying we're not boastful. I think that really, if your idea, you had to put a social media post out about something that we'd achieved. To be like, okay, actually, we're not boastful, so we don't want to be like, look at what we're doing, we're so good. But we do want to be fun and do this in a creative way. Yeah, really, really good work.
And then this finishes off, this part of the brand guide finishes off with just some do's and don'ts. And I think this is keeping it simple for especially new team members. So let me just share some of these with you. So Knowlton do's. Do. Show our fun and witty personality in the copy you write, whilst also demonstrating we're not just funny, we're also highly clued up when it comes to marketing. I think this is something when it comes to our personality is really fun and entertaining and that kind of thing. We don't just want to come across as stupid, like just cheap jokes.
Yeah.
We genuinely understand that by being more fun and entertaining, you guys are going to listen and watch for longer. So then we can get the key messages that we want to get across.
Yeah.
Like Knowlton's the best marketing company you could ever work with us. That kind of thing.
I don't think they noticed. Well done.
The next one. Use relevant pop culture references and slang where possible without trying to sound like a dad trying to be cool.
Oh, that's gonna be that's
But
tough
I think
for me.
This
isn't
is
it?
why you'd probably stay away from this kind of area, Lloyd, because you are the dad that's trying to be cool.
Yeah. Okay. But then I don't know. Some of the other team, my BFFs in the office, can probably do well with it.
Exactly. You're just showing us
sick.
why you're
Sick.
Another do. Be kind and complimentary always. And
That's a really good point, Dan. Well done.
Thank you, Lloyd. You're brilliant. And final one, write in a way that oozes intelligence and adds value. Ask yourself, what is someone gaining from reading or watching this?
Oozes intelligence. Someone's remembering their creative writing classes in primary school.
And then just to end with the big don'ts, don't be rude. Don't say anything that would show a lack of knowledge of marketing, and don't argue.
That's so simple. Don't argue.
Yeah.
From someone online saying, you don't know what you're doing with marketing, and us not going, actually we do, because of this, and this.
Yeah.
Like, that would make you sound stupid.
Don't rise to
Also,
it.
someone on a shoot going, do you know what we should do? We should probably just bury these plastic bottles rather than argue with them and say that that is a rubbish thing to do. That's not. We can just say, oh, actually,
We'd rather recycle
we
them.
prefer to recycle or actually not even use them. But thank you for your input. Yeah,
I can imagine that's exactly how you'd react, Lloyd.
yeah.
And the final part of this, the kind of brand checklist. So this is the key messages we want to get to the outside world. So with everything we do, we want to be communicating at least one of these things. So shall I give you an example of some of ours?
Yeah, okay. Let's have a couple.
This is a really big one. Knowlton is focused on having a positive impact on everyone. Our clients, their customers, our employees, the world, our local community. So with everything we do, we want to be thinking, are we communicating that we're having a positive impact? Because currently you're developing our positive impact plan, which is a real tangible action plan to actually implement that. So that's one thing. Another one, Knowlton is trusted by some of the biggest brands in the world. Biggest and most well-known brands in the world. We've worked with the likes of Wolfie, for Nestle, etc. I think we've spoken about milking the top 10% previously, but this is a big part of how we attract the biggest brands in the world to work with us by showing our best work with other household name brands.
And when you look at this, it's so obvious, like why you'd have a list like this to make sure we're communicating the right things. Like, of course, if we're communicating that we work with some of the biggest and well-known brands in the world, of course we want to be doing that all the time. If we're communicating we have about our positive impact plan and how we want to have a positive impact on everyone in the world,
our ecosystem,
why wouldn't you want to communicate that? But I think without a guide like this, there's so many options of what you could write, what you could say, what you could communicate. This is a real focus on making sure the business gets a real benefit from how we're communicating with the outside world.
Yeah. And that's it. That's the end of the guide.
Nice.
Hopefully you found this more interesting than Lloyd's episode on tax last week.
Hopefully, because I bet that's probably only about 3 people listen to that one.
But yeah, no, I really highly recommend everyone who works with anyone or has team members to create some kind of communications guide so that you're all aligned on how you communicate.
Even if it's a simpler version of that, if it's simplified, or you just start with one of these sections, I think such a good thing. And from my point of view, wanting to grow a business, if you put in the time now, it's going to really save you time when you have 10 times the amount of people you do now, or even you just have one extra employee.
One final thing, anchors listening, I know there's a lot of you, but hardly any of you are subscribed to the Business Anchors YouTube channel. And that's where we share the best clips from these episodes so that you can get a flavour of an episode before you listen to decide if it's something that you want to listen to. So please type in Business Anchors podcast to YouTube and subscribe, and then you'll never miss out on...
And if you do it you'll be able to see a clip with me with my beard now, and then you can let me know if you want to join me in April.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what an incentive, Dan, for them to go there.
Oh yeah.
Not because
they're all going to be running.
Not because our podcast is brilliant or anything like that. To see me trying to grow a beard.
Lord, I don't think you get the whole marketing and convincing people to do something. I don't think that's a big enough incentive.
Okay. I've done some of the don'ts in the communication guide, haven't I?
I'll tell you what, Lloyd. After this episode, if you give this a good thorough read through. And then try and stick to it.
Okay.
We might actually be able to get subscribers to our YouTube channel.
Thank you. You're always really kind and you never argue and you communicate in an intelligent way. Thank you. Okay. Thanks for listening, guys. And please let me know if you're planning to join Barch or April.
See you next week.